Let me get Jay Cooley. Thank you for your support and contribution to the channel, Jay Cooley. Jay Cooley says, you Bud fans are praying that the accident or the drinking play a part, so it should be easy for Bud then, right? This fight will not go the way you Bud fans think. I promise you. That was from Jay Cooley, and I'm almost certain that if he wasn't referring to somebody else in the chat, he was talking to the man that's laughing on your screen, my guy, Gregory Quarterbomb. DC Jeroy, you were next, brother. What's your take on basically this fight, man? Who wins?
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to address. I'm not going to belabor the point. I think the sister Rachel hit it right on the head. The brother who just commented, that was one of the things that I did want to touch on. Greg, you talked about the discipline piece of a Sean Porter and a Spence. Um, I would say that we can't compare the two for a couple of reasons, but more noticeable than any, Spence have come out publicly and said and acknowledged that, in the past, he was being careless and reckless and irresponsible with the way he was creating his lifestyle, and since then has made a change, i.e., moving. He's even physically removed himself, not even in addition to mentally removing himself from some of those issues. And so I don't necessarily know if that's going to be as big of a challenge, him getting over in this fight. That's one. From a mental aspect, I also heard Spence talk about, and something that I can attest to. When you have a life or a near to life or death experience, that does change things and put things into perspective a completely different way than you may have had before. And so having that scare, I think has uh, realigned his priorities and have shown him that, there's some valuable things that maybe we were taking for granted. And so let's change our mental approach towards things. I think that's the mental aspect that gets him over in this fight. Now, when I look at a fight, and why do I think, or who do I think is going to win Spence? I look at fights basically, and I break them down from 3 to 4 different areas. One, the physical aspect between the two fighters, the skill between the two fighters, and then I also look at the IQ between the two fighters. And then depending upon who the fighters are, I always look at that dog, right? So we always hear people talk about who has that dog. When I look at the skill, I'm gonna be honest. I give Terrence a slight edge just because of his ability. I think Bud does a really good job at changing levels and also creating certain angles that create challenges for fighters. So I give him a slight edge there over Earl. Physically, I give Earl the advantage there. And then as far as the IQ standpoint, I give them a deadlock, right? And so when I start to break it down and pull away from there, I look at some of the things that you talked about, right? Uh, if Earl has seen a fighter like Bud and vice versa. And what I walk away is Earl has, over his career, has fought fighters that are at least physically more adapted or equipped to what a Bud looks like. Bud has never fought, and maybe with the exception of a Kell Brook, who, like Sean Porter, was already kind of like, on his way, on his downslope, if you would. I don't know if Bud has ever had the opportunity to come across a fighter like Spence has, and then the output. So when I look at the physical aspect, I look at the punch output, I look at the punches that Spence throws. He's not really wasting punches. And him, as you said, as a freight train keep coming forward. I don't know if Bud is prepared. He's never seen some type output like that, and I don't think mentally he's going to be able to handle that type of pressure. We've seen Bud get hit. We see Bud don't necessarily like that. We see when Bud get hit, he wants to retaliate and start to turn it a little more to a dog fight. And I think that's going to play in Spence's favor. And so, unless you talked about being disciplined, if Bud can stay disciplined and fight and not get caught up into his ego and trying to exchange blows with Spence to show that I can be just as much of a dog as you, I think that increases his chances. But I don't have Bud doing that. So that's the reason why I have Spence beating Bud.